Hey, welcome to episode 6 of the My Inner Struggle.
Really? What Laura means to say is welcome to episode 6 of the My Inner Struggle podcast.
The thing that happens is that we're both checking our teeth and doing weird things when we press record, and then usually one of us makes the other person laugh, and it's just kind of fun, and it's fun doing this.
So
How often do you get to act like you're 12? Well, probably all day.
Yeah, whenever.
So this is episode 6 of the My Inner Struggle podcast.
It is.
And this has been really cool.
Yeah.
So I have been sharing a blog called My Inner Struggle, and you can find that at myinnerstruggle.com for about 8 years. Just leading my life in authenticity, discovering myself, creating a new life. And yeah, so this led us to here, and super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to be right now.
It's the place to be right now, right? Because we are the fastest growing podcast.
We are, yes.
Week
to week.
Oh, sorry, shit. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying week to week.
Oh, week to week.
Week
yes.
to week.
Week to week, yes.
Yeah.
So make sure you check out the blog at myinnerstruggle.com. Definitely subscribe on Facebook. We have a huge community that is growing by the day. There's lots of information, tips, fun things, conversation, a great
mantras.
Community. Mantras, yes. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. So last week we were talking about the 5 love languages.
We did.
And that was super fun. So if you have not checked out the 5 love languages, not lung language. All right,
that would
give up.
Gross.
You continue on.
If you have not checked out the podcast last week of the 5 love languages, make sure you do so. But also make sure that you take your own love language test to see exactly where you fall.
Right. And like we said, it's not just for romantic relationships at all. So you should take it even if you're, going to be dating or if you're alone, because it really navigates your all of your relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, and
throughout the whole course of your daily life, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's very technical, right?
Yeah. So, how was your weekend, Julie?
It was good. It was Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. And it was nice. We celebrated with my in-laws on Friday night, which was a nice dinner. And Sunday we actually had nothing, which was really unique for us. So it was just Jeremy and I and the kids at home, and Austin wanted a turkey and Claire likes ham, so I had to do one each, and that's always fun. But they were small and easy enough to cook.
So does that mean you're having ham and turkey leftovers all week?
You know what I did yesterday? We had Hawaiian rolls with our Easter. So I took some turkey and some leftover cranberry and brie cheese and on a Hawaiian roll as a sandwich last night for dinner, and it was good.
That's really weird because I must have missed my invite.
Oh yeah. I texted it to the wrong number. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. I actually made ham yesterday.
Oh,
because we didn't have it on Sunday.
Okay,
we had brisket.
Oh, nice.
But
nice still.
Yeah, and actually Sunday was gorgeous. The sun was finally out, and I took the kids and the dog for a little hike through the woods. And it was kind of funny. It was cute. My youngest is 8, as you know, and
I do.
Someone had hid eggs along the trail or whatever, and they all had these little squishy animals inside. So they were collecting those.
Aww.
We hope that they weren't left for someone else. But then they, were fighting over them. My 15-year-old and my 8-year-old were then fighting over them. And then I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put them all in a bucket, and I'm going to pick out some for each of you. Mm-hmm. And you're just going to get what you get. Because aren't we beyond this? Shouldn't this be a 4-year-old conversation?
No. It's always fun to find things in the woods and take it home and keep it forever. Come on.
So, but it was so good. And I didn't open my laptop all day Sunday. Yeah. And as you know, I am, a single mom. I've got 3 kids, and I
own a business owner. Yeah.
And I'm always working.
Yeah.
It felt so good not to open that laptop.
That's really great. I mean, you definitely need that time. That really honed in one-on-one. Well, and your love language was quality time, right?
Yes, it is.
So there you go. You had quality time with the kiddos.
Yes, that was so great. It was awesome, actually.
Very nice.
So this week we're going to be talking about communication.
Yeah, another huge topic that covers all aspects.
We could probably talk about this for weeks, quite honestly.
We could,
and we probably will circle back to it at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So communication. So what does that mean to you?
Oh, it means so many different things. I think it depends who you're communicating with,
Mm-hmm.
because communication with a spouse means one thing versus communicating with a friend or a coworker or a boss
Mm-hmm.
or even your children. It's so funny. I gave one of Austin's friends a ride home today from baseball, and we were all chatting in the car, and he's like, my mom is calling me and she'd be really upset if I just texted her back. So do you mind if I take this phone call? And I was like, no, I don't mind at all. I think that's
How old is he?
fabulous. He's 15.
Evolved.
Evolved, yes. And I love that he knows, like, okay, no, my mom is calling me. So
Mm-hmm.
Claire and Austin, when your mom calls you, maybe just pick up the phone.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
I sent my daughter a text message this morning at 8:30 and she still hasn't responded. So it's a good thing I can track her on Life 360.
Actually, it was
Because her communication is the pits.
I think that we've said this before too, and there's memes floating all over the internet about like texting your teenage boy is like texting when you're dating someone and they're not interested, and you're like, oh my god, I love you, I can't wait to see you, blah blah blah, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, did you watch the Tina Fey thing yet? She did an interview, and I don't remember. Maybe it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
I don't
just
remember.
Talking about this. Yes,
but she is so funny because she's like, she's like, it's having a teenager is kind of like having an office crush, and you're right. And she goes on to say, like, some of us are going to do like dinner, do you maybe know you're busy, right? You don't want to, maybe, I mean, if you're free, but her delivery is, it's Tina Fey. How can you not love it? But it's so true, because we're all like, oh, what are you doing later? Do you want to,
right,
maybe hang out with us?
right. So like as moms, right? Moms, parents, whatever, it's our job to teach them to communicate. So right now,
well, thanks, because I just told you how terrible Claire is at it.
Well, you know what?
She gets it from her dad.
So like practice makes perfect. So Austin should be good to go. I mean, by the time I had my third kid, I could definitely, she's much more.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
But, so, okay. So I'm dating I'm on dating apps. Mm-hmm. Well, one right now. Mm-hmm. Let's not get too crazy. It's kind of a time suck, but anyway, so it's kind of funny because you put so much what word am I looking for, like effort into, or maybe not even effort, like you're communicating with someone and there's all of these say there's conversations that you're having like at one time, right? But this form of communication is like the worst form of communication. So the sooner I am a phone person because I'd rather, and I do it with you too, because like we're texting, I just like call, right? Because I'm like,
Laura's a big FaceTime person. She likes to see my face when we're chatting.
I do, and I catch a lot of people off guard with that too. Like, I have no idea I'm gonna fix my hair. It doesn't really matter. I'd just rather see your face and know your tone and things like that. Because for me, I don't want to keep guessing.
Right. And it's so funny because what was one of the things we were talking about?
Checking your notes.
I am checking my notes. This is the biggest communication problem, is that we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply. And I feel like if you can see somebody's face, you're so much more on the same.
You can read all of the cues,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah. You're so much more on the same page.
Yeah. So,
why are you touching my microphone?
I was trying to make sure you're talking into it. I was trying to signal you. See, I was trying to communicate that with you without calling you out on it. But texting is like the worst form of communication, especially with a group of non-communicators. So like if you are someone that's, keeps to themselves or whatever, and the whole dating, like we're going to have a podcast on dating because there's too many things, to talk about. But communicating with someone is really, listening to understand, right?
Yeah.
You can't just when your spouse is explaining to you like how they feel, you can't be ready to like jump down your throat. Stop, drop your shoulders, listen to what they're saying and really absorb it, because otherwise you're missing everything.
So I have a quick little thing I'm going to throw at you and you'll be so proud.
Oh, this is
right.
I like this. Okay.
So since we have been doing this journey together, and I've really been doing a lot of research and a lot of self-reflection, and I've been working on myself. I now, when I'm having a conversation with my husband about something that's wrong, right? Sometimes he will jump to be like, oh, well, you just have to do X, Y, and Z. And then I say, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to listen to me right now. Mm-hmm. And he understands that. And he's like, okay. Because it's sometimes I especially me, because I try to do everything myself, right? Which is,
Mhm.
a quality I'm working on, asking for help and whatnot. But sometimes I just need to talk it out. I don't need
Yes.
somebody to fix
Right, and
whatever it
how often
is.
do I call you with that,
Yeah.
right? Or Beth, my BFF.
Yeah.
Like, all right, and sometimes when I don't know that we have done that much, but Beth will call me with like an issue that she's having at work or
Mhm.
something like that, and I'm like, "Okay, what do you need me to be right now?"
Yeah.
And so that's part of that thing. Like, okay, like, so if you're having an issue, like
Yeah.
we were talking yesterday, okay, how can I help you? Do you want me to offer suggestions or do you want me to just
Just
listen?
listen. Yeah.
And that is like just being able to ask that
Yeah.
is an excellent form of
Yeah.
communication
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Well, and it's so big, and that again, it can go to friends, it can go to spouses, it can go,
Your
especially
kids.
parents. I was just going to
Yes.
say, as a parent, when you have a child who is coming to you with any sort of a problem, you need to be able to recognize and hopefully, ask them, do you need me to step in? And, my kids are both they're very self-sufficient, especially when it comes to schooling.
Mhm.
And they have both went above and beyond. And if they're having an issue, Austin emailed the superintendent about an issue he was having. I didn't even know about it until the school called me to tell me that they got this really respectful letter from him. I had no idea.
Well, that's good parenting
But
right there.
but he needs, and so I'll ask them, like, they'll come to me and they'll say, I'm having X, Y, and Z problem. And the first thing I say is, okay, do you want to handle this yourself? Or is this something
You
that
do the
you
same
want me
exact
to get
thing.
involved
Yeah.
in? Because if I'm involved in it, then okay, I'm involved in it,
Right.
but they always say, give me 2 more days. Let me see if I can figure it out on my own for 2 more days. And if I'm still having the same problem with the same person, then I'll need your help.
Yeah. That's exactly what
So,
Emily just did
yeah.
too. Yeah. And it lasted a little bit longer than that, but she wanted to follow the channels that she
Yeah.
felt was appropriate to handle it. And, I would ask her every day. I'm like, all right, so how, did you talk to this one or what happened with that? I'm here, I'm poised, I'm ready to intervene whenever you want me to. And I'm
Mhm.
not, I'm not the mom that'll storm in and start screaming at somebody or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I don't think she's worried about that, but she does, take pride in how she handles herself.
Mhm.
And that's important to her.
It is.
Yeah.
Claire uses me as the bad mom. She does. She'll be like, you don't want my mom to come here, and I mean, I would not storm in and yell either, but I'm pretty confident, and if you mess with my kids, then unfortunately for you, that's not a good look,
Right.
Yeah. But no, communication is huge. Like I said, it goes for everything, bosses, coworkers, spouses, friends, kids.
Right. So if you're in a relationship or if you're not in a relationship, like I think that it's important this week after you listen to the podcast to think about it. Think about like, so if, like you said, right? So I had suggested, shared, whatever. And I think I've said it a few times is like, just, pausing and asking like for what you need, right? Or whatever. But like if your spouse is trying to tell you something, or if you keep running into the same argument, maybe communication is part of the issue.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are giving them the time that they need, and vice versa. If you are the one that's sort of like not getting what you need, start asking for it.
Yeah.
Because you're a team. That's the whole point.
And I think another big communication pitfall is pressing an issue when somebody's not ready to talk about it.
Right.
So I do, because you were saying like when you're in a relationship or and
Right.
sometimes I find myself doing it, not so much with my spouse, but with my kids, when I know something's wrong and I just want to know like what it is to see if I need to
Right,
help.
but you have to kind of wait until they're
And
ready.
you say that to me all the time.
Right.
Let them come to you. And that is extremely difficult, especially,
It is.
when you see, somebody hurting, whether it's a friend, a spouse, whoever. It's very hard to do.
What's interesting is in my coaching practice too. So I just posted a blog yesterday, another one. So I think I did 2 in the last week. I have a lot
Nice.
to say, obviously. So sorry, I didn't mean to touch your leg there. So
I like
I just posted a blog yesterday and it was about living like with intention.
Mhm.
And the thought is already leaving my brain right now. This is so difficult sometimes. But take me back. What were you just saying?
I was just saying how you have to wait for somebody to come to you and ask.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my coaching practice, so like I had several clients that it was getting kind of frustrating watching them make the same sort of mistakes week after week.
Yeah.
And they're paying me to help them.
Yeah.
So like you can only, it's just like your children, you can only lead them to make their decision on their own, but
Right.
you have to sort of step back and let other people, fall on their face sometimes.
You can lead a
because-
horse to water, but you can't make a drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like so being a coach, I'm sure therapists probably encounter the same thing over and over again. It's like these people come into your office and they're discussing the same thing over and over and over again, but they're not really like changing
The
like
behaviors.
their behavior
yeah.
or the way they think about it
Mhm.
or something else. If you're walking around thinking that everybody is an asshole, obviously there's probably a common denominator to that. Maybe we need to like think about, just flip it back to ourselves and go, okay, well, why do I think that person's an asshole? Like, did that guy that cut me off in traffic, maybe they're running late. Maybe they're, I don't know. Maybe they're having their own issue that day
Yeah.
or something like that. But
That reminds me of a podcast we did. I believe it was number 2, redirecting your thoughts.
Well, that's part of it, but also is like they're not necessarily redirecting their thought in that point. I'm talking about like asking yourself like why
Yeah.
am I feeling this way? Like
Yeah.
what is happening? So like when say your wife or your husband comes to you and says like I have an issue, instead of getting like all like porcupiney and like defensive,
Mhm.
just
Did you just call me a prick?
oh God.
Did
No.
you just call me a prick?
No, there's actually a book that I read while I was in my last relationship because he was very defensive about some things, and it's called How to Hug a Porcupine, and it's letting go of some of those things because I can't take that all on, and I did that my whole life from childhood.
Yeah.
And when I was married too, because I would take on other people's problems as my own, and that gets fucking heavy.
That's
Like
it's
you
very
can't,
heavy.
I can't function like that.
Yeah.
And part of that you'll like read in the blog too, as you evolve and you grow and you're learning, and books can't replace anything, honestly. Well, or you're reading articles on the internet and stuff like that too, but like there are so many things that we can learn from other people's experiences, which is why I started this, because I thought if I could help anyone, one person, it would be worth it.
Yeah.
And I want to help everybody. And communication is one of those big things that people sort of like, they'll brush off. Oh, she's pissed off. I don't know. I didn't do it. Like, well, why is she pissed off? Like what happened? It doesn't necessarily mean it's your fault. It just means like she's stuck right now and she needs a partner.
Yeah.
So like, I'm really proud that you and, Jeremy.
Did you just forget his name?
No, I didn't forget his name. I was thinking, I'm like, oh shit, maybe he doesn't want me to say his name, but Jeremy, I love you. So anyway, so communicating is like
sometimes
so
this
important.
is like a rabbit hole of craziness. I'm like, what?
Welcome to my brain.
I know. No, but it is so true. I mean, and not only communicating openly on your end, but receiving communication without those defenses up, because that's sometimes
Right. And
like even I'll say to you, I'm like, well, I don't know if this whatever, like
we had this discussion yesterday. So one of the things that we vowed to each other, because we've been friends for a long time, is that if we're doing this, and you work with me in my consulting company too, is that we're going to be open.
Yeah.
So no matter what, and I said to you yesterday, I'm like, I'm feeling like you might be a little upset with me, right?
Yeah.
And because we didn't have that banter back and forth like we did. Like when we first started the podcast, we were texting all the time. And I think at some point I was like, it was me, honestly, that kind of started the trend, is like, I'm like, I shouldn't be occupying her whole life. And that's like stuff like that is from my childhood, that I still work on in every relationship. And because we were getting closer, I had to figure out how to navigate that. So fucking annoying,
well, and it's crazy because we had this open communication yesterday where your fear was that you were
overstepping or taking up too much of your time,
and my fear was that I wasn't equally contributing as a partner. So we both had these things, and we were like, no, well, that's not.
But it took me a while to formulate what it was. That's why I didn't say anything sooner. And the thing is like, for me, that background of like what I have always been told from the moment I was like a kid, through childhood into adulthood, that I was too much. So I was too much for the wrong people is what it
I
was.
was just
But
gonna
I was
say
told
that.
my
Yeah.
mother would tell
Wow.
me like, you're too much,
Yeah.
she would lovingly say, and I'll say this because I say it in my book and eventually you'll be able to read it. Is I would get home from school and I'd be telling my mom about my day and she'd be like, Jesus Christ, Laura, what do you have? Diarrhea of the mouth? And
Mhm.
like to a kid that's like, trying to
Excited to
I
tell
was
you about some,
excited.
yeah.
I wanted to talk to my mom about something, and all the time she did not want to hear it. And so then as I got older, like I was picking the wrong friends, I was
Mhm.
picking the wrong people, and I was always too much. So when I'm in those good relationships, I'm like, shit, I don't want to be too much.
Yeah.
But
But
this
like
is
you said, too much is only too much for the wrong people.
right.
When you're
But you
with the
have to
right
keep
people,
reminding yourself of
yeah,
that,
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But and you have to have the open lines of communication to
Right.
be able to feel assured in the right
Right. And
relationships.
even if like so like even in my last relationship that I was in, it was always like I wanted to do stuff. I wanted to do things together,
Mhm.
right? And so now when I'm dating and I'm seeking this partner that I want to have, like fuck it. I am not muting myself at all because he had different things that he
Yeah.
wanted to do and he would say work on your list. Well, I'm tired of fucking working on my to-do list. I want to go do things.
Yeah.
So it was like I was too much in that sense, but it was the wrong person essentially is what it is. But if I'm talking to somebody now and I'm saying all these things that I want to do, I'm not too much for them,
Right. Right.
So
And
it
that just
really
means that
right.
it's,
So
more in
we're
line with what
both
you're.
still evolving. I'm
Yeah.
figuring it out. I don't think that I was too much for my ex-husband. I
Yeah.
don't think, but we were just in two different
Yeah.
places, really.
Yeah.
Because he did, we're all not easy to get along with, right?
Yeah.
At times.
I mean, other
And
than me, because I'm pretty easy to get along with all the time.
um
You could ask anybody,
next up
really.
we'll have Jeremy in here for a true confession.
He would tell you that I am the light of his life.
He would,
I
and
know
he
he would.
does actually. Yes.
Yeah, no.
So, did you have a quote that you want to share? This is the
So
quote.
funny. Yes, I do have a quote. And it's by Peter Drucker, not to be confused with any other word, because Laura was making fun of that before.
I
It
can't
says,
remember what I said.
the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said.
That's right.
And it is. It's very
Like
important.
sort of reading between the lines,
Which I think goes
essentially.
back to how terrible texting is for communicating, because you don't know the tone of the text, you don't know what the feelings behind it,
Right.
which is why phone, like actual phone conversations
I
or
have to follow
FaceTime
that up on something
conversations.
too, because if you're reading between the lines, also don't assume, ask.
Yeah.
So if someone says something, what example did I just give to you? And I walked in here too. But if somebody
Yeah.
says something and you're not sure and it makes you feel like a certain way and you're like, well, do they
mean it like that?
yeah, like
Am I taking it wrong?
let's not assume that. Let's just ask.
Yeah.
So essentially that's what happened yesterday because I was like, I'm feeling like
Yeah.
you're upset with me. Like, or, we have all this consulting work that we're working on together too. And so like, it can get overwhelming at times and I want to be here for you. You're a very dear friend to me. And
like Doa deer or like dear heart.
you're dear to my heart.
Okay, I like it. I take it.
But you could be a deer too. I'm gonna get you some antlers.
Okay.
So yeah. So don't you're reading between the lines, but we're not assuming what's between the lines.
Yeah.
So if she says something like, "No, I'm just really busy," okay, maybe I just take that as what she's not ready to say what it is yet. Maybe she's going through her own thing. Rather than take it on and make a mountain out of whatever
a molehill.
yeah
I again, I think it's just having communication. It seems so easy, right? You're like, oh, I'll just tell you how I feel, but really, and especially when you're communicating with somebody who you care about, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but at the same time you want them to know where you're coming from. So communication is really a very difficult, open and honest communication.
And sometimes people don't deliver it the best, so give them the benefit of the doubt because not everybody has the same doesn't articulate themselves the same way at all. And I have trouble sometimes when I'm in a meeting, I need some time to like think about something before I respond. And so it may seem that I'm disinterested, but I'd rather ponder that first, then react.
That's
So
actually
reacting was a really big thing for me to like let go of, because I would in my past life,
mhm.
I would react before I thought about anything. And that's something that I really have taken now back,
They say that's actually one of the best tools of a effective communicator is pausing.
practice the pause.
Practice the pause. So before you respond to something, before you reply to something, and if you're going to do it in written form, read what you write before
Hmm.
you hit send on whatever it is, an email, a text message,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Because if you read it back, and I know I do this all the time, I will text somebody something and I'll read it back and I'm like, oh, does that sound a little harsh?
Well, and even like I have that experience too, like with clients, right?
Yeah.
So coaching clients, and they may be upset or need something or needs to hear something. And I don't want to sound like I'm dismissing what they
Hmm.
need, but like sometimes we all have to practice boundaries too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm here for you, like, as a coach without a doubt, but it might take me a little while to formulate my response, because I want to give you that individual attention.
Hmm.
No different with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
So if you're having like an argument, like if you're yelling or something like that, maybe in the moment just pause and say, you know what, this is probably not a good idea to have this discussion right now. Why don't we cool off? Not that you have to separate or whatever, like let's just cool off and we'll talk about it when we're both
Yeah.
like calm. And that's communicating too, saying like, okay, this is too much, it's going to escalate to somewhere where I don't want
You're
it
going to say
to.
something you don't mean
Yeah,
to say.
because you
Yeah.
can't take back those words when
Yeah.
you say mean things to
No.
someone. And it's not nice to hit below the belt. Like,
Yeah.
no, then that doesn't get you anywhere.
No, absolutely. No. And again, I think being able to say, hey, we need a pause is so huge because a lot of people
Don't.
can't they,
Right.
whether they don't or they can't, especially when you're in the heat of that moment and you're
Hmm.
having a really tough conversation or an argument, or it's a very emotional argument. It's a difficult thing. Did you hear me just hit the
I
table?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to fix this setup
Yeah.
soon. Anyway,
um
so what are we talking about next week? Are you not ready to go there yet?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Okay.
So next week we're actually going to talk about morning routines.
That's a
We're
good
going to
one.
kind of like set that up, and I mean, that I
You're
have a pretty
Yeah, I like your morning routine a lot. A
yeah.
morning routine I have struggled with, honestly, since my kids were little. Like I say it all the time, and I should I should practice manifesting being a morning person, but quite frankly, it's like my clock doesn't work that way. But I am turning a corner here and
Yeah.
getting on some good routines, but I'm curious about your routines too. So you have been quite inspirational actually in that. And like I had said, I don't know what podcast that was, but we talked about the book from Mel Robbins, right? The
Yeah.
5 second
The
rule.
5-second rule.
And that really has transformed a lot of things
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Just
That's
like talking myself into it and like, let's go.
yeah.
So morning routine is really important to help set the tone of the day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they say what 30 days makes a habit, right? Isn't that a saying?
Yeah.
30 days makes a
I
habit.
think
So
so. I think they used to say that it was like 3 weeks or something like that, but I think that 30 days makes sense.
yeah.
And yesterday was the start of a new month, and so it's a great time to
I'm just
start a
thinking in
new
my head, I'm
habit.
like, it was? No,
Yeah.
we're still in March, but we're definitely
No, we're
not. No, we're not.
Yeah. So I think, when you start a new month and you have this new sort of goal to
Yeah.
reach, and don't make it about I guess like for me, like when I was working with a coach, I used to always be a morning exerciser
Mm.
from the time that my oldest was little, through pregnancies and everything, and it was always like in the morning. And then when I went back to work, I was doing like 5:30 a.m. CrossFit classes, and it was like so great. I was in a whole different mindset at that point. And then life happens. I got divorced,
Yeah.
things get different, you're depressed, you're messy, like whatever. And I think I'm finally back to that point where I want to work out in the morning, but it might not be at 5:30 in the morning.
And that's okay.
But my coach was urging that, and it's like, rather than sticking to that, like, let's talk about the goal that we're actually
Mhm.
trying to achieve, rather than I need to work out every day. What am I accomplishing for the month?
Yeah.
Like, where do I want to get?
Well, just so you know,
anyway.
if you decide to go back to CrossFit, don't invite me.
I did
Laura
once.
invited me to a CrossFit once, and
I think you couldn't walk for like a couple
wanted,
days.
and I think it was like Thanksgiving morning. You're like, "Oh, we'll do it."
It
That
was
way,
so
you're
much
like,
fun.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't fun at
Yeah.
all.
I am actually dying to get back there one day.
Yeah,
So,
no. And then there was the one year also you made me take a spin class in the morning.
yeah, that I think was Thanksgiving morning.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a fundraiser.
Well,
with,
the CrossFit one has been burned into my brain as something not to do. I mean, I'm sure CrossFit is great for some people, but not for me. So no, the answer's
I
no.
love it. I can't wait to get back there.
No.
So, anyway, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
This is episode 6. Please share it with all of your friends, anybody that you think, would benefit. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the blog on myinnerstruggle.com and make sure you subscribe on Facebook, and share and tell everyone, because this is the what?
Fastest growing podcast.
Fastest growing podcast.
And also, if you have a great morning routine that you want to share with us before next week, shoot us a comment, send us a message, and so that we can incorporate what you do, what you find works for you. Maybe it'll work for somebody else. Maybe it'll help somebody else. And, if we're not here to help each other, what are we here for?
I don't know.
I don't know. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great week.
Have a great week.